Hi everybody, this is the trend scan for the coming week here, starting with the euro dollar, the most important currency pair. I'm actually pretty impressed how the euro dollar is holding up. So it's basically here in a very tight trading range, right? And it's respecting like the lower boundary, which means that the bears cannot push a price lower. So we have got a triple bottom. Well, let's just put. So that tells me that the bulls are strong and the bears are weak. Looking at the daily, we can see that well, price activity is basically sitting on like on eight EMA support. That's a very shallow pullback, right? You would expect at least a pullback to the 21 moving average, especially as we see here on the weekly that price is already overextended from moving average. So that's a very shallow pullback. And while this might, because of that, this might continue into the next week, right? We might get a couple of more days of sideways. We might get a dip and a touch, or it might just continue for another couple of days, and the 21 is catching up. So I think we will get a touch of 21, and then this consolidation might be over, or then we might break the 21 lower and get a more pronounced pullback, which I would actually prefer to get out of this overextended situation on the weekly. But you never know what happens. A price might just run away on the weekly. Let's just have a quick look here on the monthly. So how does the monthly look like? Well, obviously it's heavily overextended too, and it's hitting important it's hitting resistance from the very big number 1,2000. So I would actually prefer that this is not continuing to rise in this way, and that we get either a more pronounced consolidation or a deep pullback. This would tell that the trend is is more sustainable, this early uptrend. We don't want a one leg move and then everything falls apart. So we'll see how that works out. Looking at the 240 for the time being, that looks very strong, very bullish. And let's see if it can break out here, if it can make a new high. Well, then I'm all over it for long trades. We might get another push higher. Well, what would be the other push? Well, it would be a measured move, right? This move we can expect getting duplicated. Let's just see how that would look like. Well, we would move in my target area, which is 25, even a little bit higher. That would be the target if that happens. And 25 then, well, then we would get we might potentially break this very important long-term resistance, which is basically a rebreak of this huge monthly busted pattern. So interesting times. We'll see how things play out. Well, here just checking the euro pound. What pops into my eye is this pattern on the 60-minute, right? So it looks like an S1 pattern with a too deep of a pullback, right? Never mind. I like that. I just know that it's not tradable because the pullback is too deep. It takes ages to get it to break even, right? We can see that TC1, well, we've got the very minimum requirement. We've got a zigzag higher, but price is sitting at this important resistance now. So price is playing here. We might get a breakout. Most likely we won't, right? But we could get a breakout. Well, this is not tradable because TC2 is well, that might be a good example because it's not clear. So let's start from the beginning. What do we have here? So we've got a zigzag, we've got another zigzag. So it's in an uptrend here. Then we've got a higher low. So this low didn't break the last low that is here. So we're still in an uptrend. Then it didn't make a new high. So that means that we're basically, that this is TC2 is overall sideways, right? We haven't made a new, so this is a lower high to this. If it makes a new low, well, then we would have a zigzag lower, and there would be an early downtrend. Currently, we're basically, we're basically sideways, so overall sideways within an uptrend, right? So I still like this pattern. I'm having an eye on that because if it breaks higher, it might actually start to run higher pretty fast. We've got a couple of stop run levels going back here, right? Nice stop run levels, another two stop run levels here. So this might start, it looks very bullish here because it's kind of attacking the first stop run level and they're very close by. So I don't want to trade this, but there might be trading opportunities on the 15 or on the 5-minute start if and as we start to run, right? Start to develop a good momentum move higher. Here the euro yen looks much bullish than last week, because what we see here is let's take that out. So this was kind of a doji bar indecisive week 2 weeks ago. Now this week we've actually been able to break this doji, and we've been able to plot a decent sized right, it's a decent sized bar, good body, and with a close well above the 200. So it seems like the 200 is no longer resistance here. It could still get rejected, but it has gone a fair amount. And now this comes into sight, right? The 200 on the monthly, which is a magnet, and price now gets drawn. The closer we get, the stronger it gets drawn to the 200, which is at around 130, and 130 is up here. So the closer it gets drawn, and the lesser is this pullback back to this 200, right? So it's interesting to observe now how we're doing. The daily is in a really good trend. It's accelerating, nice smooth trend. This might even be a super trend, sorry, a green light mode trend here on the 240 for system 3 tradable in 240. So this, if this makes a new high, well, then I'm actually all over it as well for long patterns, because then we might get an acceleration here, and we might get an acceleration into, let's put that target area, an acceleration into the 130 level, which we've just determined coming from the monthly chart. Another one of those interesting ones, Euro CAD. So all those Euro pairs are basically strong bullish, right? So we've got an important level here, a double top, 2 wicks. These are great stop run levels, right? Really great. Like if price gets there, and let's put a line here. If price gets there and breaks this, that's a stop run level already, and we have another one very close by, another wick. So that's actually, it looks pretty good now that this scenario is going to fulfill itself, and we have talked about that before. So this move to the 170 is still active, and it could be that we're actually leaving this sideways consolidation. It's always difficult to time breakouts out of sideways, and I prefer to wait for a breakout, but let's see. It's possible to trade, I mean, this acts as a magnet too, right? The 16000. It's possible to trade towards this, and then if it breaks out, it's possible to add or to wait for a breakout and then start to go along and look for patterns on a lower time frame. What we have here in addition is basically an S12 here on the 240, right? I don't want to trade it. It's not a low risk idea, but if it starts, like if it rebreaks first, there would be a first sign of bull strength, and then it might start to run for these two stop run levels, and then well, it's actually the first level I'm looking at. If and there's a big number. So if the bulls are strong enough to run over those resistance levels, stop run levels, then this becomes more likely that we get this big stop run on the weekly and even on the monthly chart, right? That looks very tempting, and let's see. It depends a little bit on the euro dollar, what the euro dollar is doing and how strong it is too. Well, just quickly, a couple of more pairs. I don't want to make this too long. That's the US Swiss. As you know, I'm very bearish on the US Swiss. That's a busted pattern, and it has just started to run the first double level, double stop run level. There's another one here, so there's still room to go, and we might actually see a dump in these couple of weeks to come. It's just developing here, and it's nicely trending down. It's currently consolidating here, right? But I really like that. It has a lot of swing potential on the higher time frames, right? It has this stop run level you can benefit from on the weekly, and you can even benefit from the system one pattern on the monthly. So there's a lot of potential here to go lower to get a huge swing trade, basically. And right, so this is nicely trending. This is in a downtrend, but overall sideways, right? So what about here? What about the 60-minute chart? Well, what do we have? What do we have here? Well, it's basically an S2 pattern, right? And I quite like that. We have a consolidation. It's not super clear, right, to the pip. There's some white space here, but we have good compression here towards the end, very compact, right? Price is squeezed between the flat and the 821, nicely squeezed. Well, as far as placing the stop is concerned, there's basically no dominant lower high. You have to put it here at the consolidation high, basically, right? So that's a negative, because in order to make that break even, it needs to move down here, and on the 240, it means it means it needs to come close to the low. So that's still okay. This is overall sideways, and we can make this trade break even before actually breaking to new lows, right? So that's not too bad. Well, let's see how the market opens on Sunday. I might want to take that short. Ideally, what would happen is it makes a lower high, dominant lower high, and then it breaks lower. I quite like that. It has lots of potential. Here as well, we've got Swiss yen, so we've got Swiss strength, right? The Swiss against the yen. It's moving higher, really nicely developing here some momentum. This could go, well, it's overextended, but we have this momentum, so it could still continue, right? There could be a pullback at any time. Well, no, we are approaching here the stop run level, so that looks pretty bullish. So if this bullishness continues, we're actually likely to see a nice up run, and this is basically preparing for doing so. I'm having an eye on that too. Very bullish. So this might give us good opportunities in the week to come. Well, we've got an interesting top-down analysis this time. So here the odd yen. So we've got Australian dollar bullishness, right? We've got a triple top, and that's basically an S2 pattern, right? An S2 pattern. This is an early uptrend TC1, but it's not trending in TC2. It's just a one-leg move, so we cannot trade this S2 TC pattern basically. But we know if it breaks out, well, we might get a nice stop run move towards the 200 moving average here on the weekly that clusters with the big number, with the 80 big number. So we might actually see a really good strong week or the next couple of weeks if these things get resolved. So this is one we've been looking and discussing on the blog, the odd New Zealand here with two busted patterns. This one very tight stop. It came from Neil. And this one a follow, like a scale in busted pattern, basically in a very strong and smooth uptrend, and very strong and smooth 240-minute chart. And it's basically accelerating here. So after this breakout, that's what we might see for next week or the weeks, with some of those cross pairs discussed just before. If you get a breakout, well, it might actually start to run. And we talked about that before, right? That this might happen, and we're actually seeing that here now in the live markets happening right now. So we see the Australian dollar against the Kiwi. Now those are closely correlated, right? We can see it on the monthly. I'm not an expert on like the differences between Australia and New Zealand, but I would be interested, like from you who know, what is the reason that the Australian dollar now is getting much well, it's gaining strength against the Kiwi, because it was basically falling apart, right? So the Kiwi was very strong, and now that there seems to be a trend in an early trend in change, and there might be a stop run here as well, and we might see an acceleration of what starts to happen here. So great opportunities here, and we already get here 2 patterns in a row, right? That's typically what happens. If you have nice trends starting in the beginning of a trend, or in an aging trend, or in the middle of a trend, you get really nice trading opportunities. And just checking here the this pair out New Zealand for S3, and looking at the 60-minute chart, it's in green light mode, right? So here, one time frame higher, ADX is below 50, and here the blue line, the TSI is above the threshold, and here it's above the threshold. So this chart, the 60-minute odd Kiwi, is in green light mode, and we can wait for a pullback, or there was a pullback. We can wait for a pullback into the 21 moving average, and then this is tradable, and we might get an acceleration here, and it's tradable until as long as the ADX remains below 50, right, which is the other threshold. All right, so this is it for the top line analysis for the next week, and I think it's a very interesting analysis this time. We might get really an interesting trading week or weeks to come. Thank you.